But the point is, 80,000 registered voters in New York said, yeah, we want an investigation. That's really significant. Almost 1,000 members in the architects and engineers list now. WeAreChange groups everywhere. Truth Action, 11th, 30 month groups everywhere. About 220 or so contacts on this page now. In 2004, I mentioned yesterday, we filed a petition with the Attorney General, like the head lawyer of New York State, that basically laid out the entire legal case. We pulled it together with pro bono attorneys helping and researchers helping. It was in 2004. And, and then I think, to me, the most significant thing that we've done, and John talks about this, Bursill, is that we've instilled a bit more skepticism in people. And we're seeing that now with the H1N1 shots and whether we're believing the information that comes out to us. And not with everybody, and it's not that that wasn't there before. But over these 8 years, I do think that people are less willing to simply digest the information that's being handed to us. We question, we go, well, there have been these examples before where some of this wasn't straight up. What's the motives behind this? We've also helped people see corporate control better. I think that people are better able to digest information. We have created a lot of new media. And if you look at Google, YouTube videos, tens and hundreds of thousands of people are looking at that compared to New York Times, where they're not. I mean, the newspapers in the U.S. are going under for a lot of reasons. But we've helped people see, you could look over here at this other information, maybe all of this isn't true, and to help digest it, how to research it, how to ask questions. We're really not taught to question much in the United States. We're not taught very many critical thinking skills. I have 6 children, 20 years in public schools, and I can tell you that probably never once were they encouraged to think something through and ask a lot of questions and figure it out. They were encouraged to memorize it. So one of my issues is that we don't know what we're losing if we don't know what we have. The children are not taught the Bill of Rights or the Constitution. Last year, my 11-year-old was asked to memorize the preamble to the Constitution, which includes words like inalienable, but there was no discussion of what does inalienable right mean. They were just to memorize it and stand up and speak it. On the other hand, at the Republican National Convention in 2004, where they were voting for the presidential candidate, massive police state. They arrested 1,700 protesters, threw them in a pier, grease all over the floors. They were sick, they wouldn't let them out. Eventually they sued. The city said, oh, we're sorry, we don't really have any right to arrest any of you. But at that event, where we held a vigil at Ground Zero, with a permit, even though the Port Authority told us we had to leave, I witnessed a bunch of 20-ish people standing on a little ledge wall in the city park there, speaking the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Standing there speaking it. They were handcuffed and hauled off. It was really powerful to me. I still got it. It was really powerful to me. Those who didn't get arrested, later I was walking along, and behind me I heard 2 young people speaking the Bill of Rights behind me. It was really powerful. The police state said you can't do this, and they said, this is so important, we're going to go do it anyway. That was really impactful. Almost no one in the United States can tell you what the First Amendment is, let alone speak it and memorize it. So if we don't know what we have, we don't know what we're losing. And I think that's part of what we've been really successful at, and what we have to keep pushing is, I often say to people, the question is, what form of government do you want? Do you really want a republic, often called a democracy, or do you not care? Because if you don't care, then go watch the races and have a beer. But if it matters to you, you live in a republic and you have representation, then you have to do something, because it's a participatory form of government. So you should know what's on your Bill of Rights, which we don't. So that's sort of a sad thing. But we've generated a lot of interest in that. Through street actions and talking to people in this news where people say, I don't understand this, what are they so upset about? And it sounds so basic, it's sort of stunning. Well, it's very stunning and absurd, but it is what it is. And that's one of the things that we've done. We've just generated this, and we should think about these things. And sometimes it takes hold and sometimes it doesn't. It's very intangible, but there's more of that now. And 17.5 million of us across the world were in the streets saying no to the Iraq War, and George Bush said, I don't listen to focus groups. And then everybody went back to doing what we were doing. Last year in the United States, they the Congress suggested this bailout of the rich people. 91%, well, first of all, so many of us responded, we shut down the mail server at the House, with the House of Representatives, one of the two branches there. I can't remember what yours is called.
Fine, House of Representatives.
The House of Representatives, okay. So we shut down the email servers. We crashed their email servers. And they had to start portioning how many people could email at a given time. Never has that happened. Now, these are average Americans. My representative sent an email and said, wow, I heard you. I got more response in this than I've ever gotten from anywhere. 91% of those who responded said, no, and hell no, we want you to give our money to Goldman Sachs. Nonetheless, they gave all of our money to Goldman Sachs. And then what's stunning is almost every one of them that did that was reelected.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of food for thought. It's absurd. That's why I was saying it's absurd. So we actually generated this huge response. I mean, we didn't, but we, the people, said that's, because we keep saying there's going to come a time where Americans say, that is all. People around the world, that's just it. That's how people's movements work. There's a last straw, don't know what it's going to be, and we in this movement keep going, this is going to be it. This is so it. The people are going to say, that's all, right? We did. The people said, that's all. They rose up, they got really mad, and then the Congress said, spat in our face, and we said, okay. And so it was just the absurdity that we're starting to be able to see. And the other thing about that is that, in my opinion, it's a very clear example that we do not have a representative government, that we no longer actually live in a republic. We certainly don't live in a democracy. There's certainly no direct democracy. And there's a perception that America has that. But in reality, we live in a corporate fascist corporatocracy, something, but it's not a republic, and it's way not a democracy, and it's certainly not a direct democracy. So it really is that bad. I mean, we really don't have representation. We don't really have a vote, clearly. Example after that. So those are issues that we're having to grapple with because we were taught, we live in this, we're still taught. Here's our form of government. We have 3 co-equal branches of government. The judiciary keeps the unitary executive in line. Well, we don't. And we have, as I said yesterday when I got a little passionate, which happens, we don't have a judiciary. We have no recourse. The people who were arrested in New York City and abused 4 years ago did finally find pro bono legal help through the National Lawyers Guild and were able to bring a suit. But there wasn't recourse. The GA just met in Pittsburgh. Some of you saw probably Luke Rudkowski made a film. He was there bullhorning. And we now have these police officers in Star Wars. Did anybody see that? I wanted to show that clip, but as I said, I'm technologically challenged. So there are a whole line of cops across the street. There are about 500, 700 protesters there. Homeland Security had overseen the gathering of the law enforcement. 12,000 law enforcement there, or 500 or 700 protesters, saying, we think we should be able to eat. Really, that's what it's about. We don't think that the global agenda. They formed a line at one point across the street, and it was a very peaceful demonstration. It wasn't really hardly a protest. With shields up in front of them, completely black clad. There's no faces anymore. They have no faces. You can't see their eyes. Beating their shields, all in lockstep. And you have to watch the video. I wish I could have seen it. And then from behind them comes a black robot machine out of Star Wars, announcing with this sort of computerized voice, this area has been declared off limits. This is not a gathering area. You must leave. You will be arrested. If you refuse to leave, you may be physically harmed. Over and over, as these robots without faces, without eyes, without humanity, are beating their shield. You have to go and watch it. And I watched, actually, what happened to me was, I just lost it. I just put my face